Hi everyone, and welcome to the Year 5 and 6 Round 1 QDU Academy session. This session will be addressing the topic that the government should pay children pocket money. An overview of what we'll be looking at today. First off, we'll take a look at some of the context surrounding this debate. Then we'll take a look at some points that you may want to address in setup. Then some themes that you may want to brainstorm points around for both the affirmative team and the negative team. And finally, we'll have one general slide looking at a possible structure that you can use to structure your points. First off, let's take a look at the context of this debate. Here are some questions that you may want to think around before approaching any other step of case prepping, like making your arguments. Understanding the context of the debate can be very important for a number of reasons. These include understanding what you want to prioritize within a debate, understanding the justified arguments that can appear from either side, and also understanding what sorts of examples are the most relevant within this topic. So, first off, why was this set as a topic? Every topic is set for a reason and because there are justified arguments on either side. You may want to do some research, especially if this is a highly topical topic that is splashed across news headlines right now, or else because this is just an age-old question and it's just generally quite controversial. The key thing here is to recognize that there are justified positions on both sides. So, this is a key thing. Obviously, in your preparation, you may want to try and have a think about what the opposition might say and have a think about some rebuttal responses for any of those arguments. Secondly, have a think about what the problem in this debate is. What is the cause of this problem? What are the effects of this problem? And what is the scale of this problem? Understanding what the problem is in a debate is key for both sides. As the affirmative side, you are making a change in this world. So, you want to have a justification for why the government should do this thing that you are proposing. If you are able to say that there is a problem in the world right now, that people are suffering, and that it needs to be fixed, then it appears a lot more justified for the government to be doing things to solve this problem, like spending money that perhaps should be spent elsewhere. As the negative team, understanding the problem is a key way to understanding the possible affirmative team case that you might encounter, but also is a great way to think for your own case as well. If you are able to refute the existence of the problem, or if you're able to understate the existence of the problem, then that can be a key way for you to try and prove that the solution that the affirmative team is suggesting is unnecessary or perhaps going to be damaging. Then let's take a look at some setup. So, in terms of approaching setup, the first question we want to answer is what type of debate this is. Is this a policy debate or a model debate, or is this an empirical or criteria debate? A policy debate is one where we are making a change. The key word to look for within these topics is should, whereas an empirical debate is where we are trying to prove whether something is objectively true or better. No change is being made in an empirical debate. Determining this is important as each type of debate requires different types of setup from the affirmative team and the negative team. This debate is a policy debate, and this means that we require a model. However, first, let's take a look at the definition. What are the key words which need to be defined? These can be words which you find confusing or words which can take along different and varied meanings depending on the context in which they are used. We might say a couple of the key words which need to be defined here are government. What sort of government are we talking about? Are we talking about governments all around the world? Are we talking about a local government? Or are we talking about a national Australian government? Then, children. The idea of children can have very different meanings and different definitions depending on what context we're looking at. Sometimes children aged 16 and over are considered adults. So have a think about what ages you actually consider children within this topic. Finally, pocket money. What does pocket money mean? What sorts of purposes does pocket money actually serve? Please note that your definitions should be quite short. For example, you should be able to summarize all of your definitions all together in one sentence that does not need to be too long at all. Then let's take a look at models and countermodels. A model is a way in which you can clarify how a policy is going to be implemented. So obviously, we know that the government is going to pay children pocket money, but there are a lot of unanswered questions left by the topic. So, affirmative teams require a model. Here are some of the questions that you may want to answer in your model. How much pocket money are we talking about? Is this going to differ for different children? For example, are children of more need going to get more money? Are children of higher age going to get more money? How is this going to change? Where does the government get this money from? Obviously, there are lots of different ways that the government can get money, whether that be redirecting funding from different areas of spending, or whether that be printing more money and gaining more debt. Have a think about what sorts of harms you think are the smallest and how you can try and minimize this harm that your side incurs. Finally, will the parents give children pocket money? This is something to think about in terms of the realistics of this scenario as well, and this may also feed into your points. Do you think parents will continue to give children pocket money? Will all parents do this, or will only some parents do this? Then, negative teams may choose to include a countermodel, or otherwise they can choose to argue for the status quo meaning the world as it currently is, as the best option. If you choose to have a countermodel, please note that this cannot be the same as the model. So for example, you cannot advocate for the government to give money to children. However, you can choose to do an alternative solution instead. So have a think. Is there a problem within the status quo? Do you think that there is an alternative way that this problem should be solved instead? Additionally, have a think before you choose to include a countermodel or not, because you do not need a countermodel, but you can choose to have one if you think it is good. You might want to consider, what does the status quo look like? If you think it is perfectly fine, then it is also fine not to have a countermodel, and you can just say that the world as it is right now is perfectly fine. So now let's take a look at how you can brainstorm points. So in terms of brainstorming points, first off, here are a couple of questions that you can use to get yourselves thinking. So what do you think the key advantages and disadvantages of this policy are? Also, if you woke up tomorrow within this world, what would change? How would that change be different if you are in different people's shoes as different children with different sorts of parents as well? Also, here are some themes to think around. First off, equality. Is it fair that some children get money right now and others do not? Secondly, education. How does this affect children's relationship with money? How is this likely to affect their habits when they become adults? Is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing? How do you think parents are going to interact with this policy as well? Will they give advice to their children, or will they let their children run amok with however much money you think the government is giving these children? Thirdly, freedom. What would the children spend this money on? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Note that you don't need to always stand by the most sensible option. If you want to, you can say that spending money on toys is not the best thing, but you can also argue that spending money on toys can be good in certain situations. For example, toys are super cool. Maybe it is really good that children get to spend money on toys, because perhaps parents are unlikely to buy toys for children because they might think that it's a silly waste of money. Finally, the government. Does the government have any special duties towards children? Do they have any special obligations that they are failing to fulfill right now? Additionally, what else does the government spend money on? Can you argue that these other things are far more important than spending money on children? Then, also, in order to think about points and to evolve your points as well, have a think about stakeholders. Stakeholders are groups of people who are affected by a debate. Thinking of stakeholders is an excellent way to brainstorm a greater variety of points and also impact effectively. That means you prove to the adjudicator that your point is important and that they should care about your point. So, have a think. Who is affected by this debate? Then have a think between all of these different types of stakeholders, which might include children of varying different backgrounds, also parents, the government, and all of the other people that the government spends money on. Have a think between all of these people, who do we care the most about? Why do we care the most about them? Do you think this is going to be the same for both the affirmative team and the negative team? Note also that obviously there is one very large stakeholder that we probably care about quite a lot within this debate: children. When you have a large stakeholder like this, where there are so many different types of them and there are just so many of them, it may be very useful to section them off. Have a think about whether all children are the same. Can you distinguish between different types of children that might react differently to this policy, whether that be in good ways or bad ways? Have a think about how you can section off children in terms of the levels of responsibility that they have. For example, children that are more responsible with this money and might choose to do different things like saving it or doing different responsible things with it, or children that might not be as responsible, they might be a bit younger and might choose to recklessly spend it. And also, think about whether all children are the same in terms of their level of privilege. Maybe some children need it more than others, and saving them is particularly important within this debate. Finally, let's take a look at how you can structure points. Please note that there are lots of different ways that you can structure points, and make sure to use whatever works for you. I think it's also a great opportunity to try and experiment a little bit as well, so here's one alternative you can use. First off, the point label. What is the impact, so the advantage or disadvantage that you are trying to prove? Then, firstly, what is the problem? What is the specific problem within this topic that you are trying to solve? Note that this is likely going to be slightly different from the overall problem that we were talking about before. Then, the mechanism. What is the way that you are going to make this change? The outcome. What is the outcome, whether it be an advantage or a disadvantage? Finally, impacting. Why is this outcome important? Does it affect someone that we care about a lot? Or does it affect a particularly large number of people? Why should the adjudicator value this point more than any other point from any other side? Okay, then on the debate night, please aim to get to the debate venue at least 15 minutes before the start of your debate. Make sure to have your speech on palm cards. This can be written or printed out and cut up into palm card sized pieces, but having palm cards is a great way to ensure that you have good manner throughout your speech, making sure to have eye contact and making sure that you're not staring down a tiny sized font. Also, please note that one of our most important rules is that you cannot watch an earlier debate on the same topic as you. So even if you have friends on another team, you cannot watch them if they are going on before you go, obviously because you could take ideas from them or something like that. And also, please note that we will also be having QDU Academy sessions for round 2. Our next QDU Academy sessions will be separate sessions for year 5 and 6 on Tuesday, the 8th of August. If you are interested, please head to our website listed here, qdu.org.au, and click Events for more details. Please also note that we have lots of different videos on our channel as well if you need help with anything else. Thank you so much for paying attention. We hope to see you around at future QDU Academy sessions as well. Good luck for your first debate!